Hey everybody, welcome back to part 4 of DIY bodywork on the 68 Chevelle in my garage. I've got a lot left to do on this and my weekend's all taken up and I'm out of town for work next week, and so I'm going to try to get a whole bunch done today, so let's get after it. So I was able to borrow a dent puller. It's a Weld dent puller. It is a cheapo Harbor Freight one, and it should be just fine. And with that thing, I am going to try to pull out this door a little bit. I've got to fix that, try to straighten that up as best I can. I got to weld up that little hole before it's ready for some filler. And I've got this dent back here in the right here, this part that's above the trunk. I want to pull that out as best I can before I go to filler. And I'm really thinking about putting the back window in. So I just set it in there to see how it would go, because this is a whole part that I ended up rebuilding. And I wanted to see how the curve worked, and it looks like I'm really happy with it. If I take the trim and drop it into place, it really matches the contour good. It's a little rough, and so I'm going to probably hand putty that and just hand sand that down. And I've got a little bit of a transition right here where I started welding, and I'm not going to get too crazy if the bond went. I'm just going to use some spot putty and hand sand that down, maybe not so much there, but just to make it nice and smooth. And I've also got the little trim tabs. Those are designed to screw in, and they replace, this is the old piece of metal I pulled out, and you can see the little tabs here that I'm missing. I only need 2, but I'll put those in. I've got the new window trim, and that's for the glass. But before I get this, I got to pull this window back out. I'm going to go in there and pour 15, all the nasty stuff, all the stuff I can't reach, I'll spray this in. This is a rust converter as well. And this piece back here, I'm probably going to sand that down. And I know there's a cover that goes on it, but I don't have it. So I'm just going to paint that like a semi-gloss black, and then paint the rest of this bare metal up. You don't want to pour 15 on bare metal because it won't work. It's got to adhere to rust. And I'm not going to put water on it and make it rust to do that, although I know that's a technique. I'm just going to clean all this up, clean up the window, and get all this in and done. And that way I don't have to think about it, I don't have to worry about it, and it's just one less gigantic hole that the dust can get into that was already filling up the inside of the car. And once I'm done with all that, I think I'll lift off the hood and start working on this cowl. I don't know how much I'll get done today on that, but hopefully I can get a lot done, because it's going to be over a week before I can get to that. I did get up to Cecil's last weekend, and we got a bunch done on his car. I got about half a video put together on that, but I'm going up there again in a couple days. We're going to get more done, but that car is just getting closer and closer to get a 66 Chevelle back on the road. And it seems like all I do is work on Chevelles. I need to get like a Camaro or a Mopar in here bad. I got a lot of this dent out. I don't know if you can see that, but that was quite a bit down. I had to put 2 studs in there and yank them up, and there's not much filler to be used in there. I'm pretty happy about that. This door is another story. I did get the dent up quite a bit. I mean, I'm going to need a little bit of filler just kind of looking at it, but I mean, really, that's not that bad. I spent some time aligning the door. This door, that was almost touching the pillar, and you need a gap in there. So I popped that out a little bit, and you can tell looking at the fender, it's pretty close. I think the fender has to go down a little bit. If you see, I've got this big gap up here, and it gets a little bit tight. The height of the door is good, but the fender is quite a bit too high. So once I drop that down, I'm hoping that closes up the gap. But this is what you get when you have an aftermarket fender. And you see people like welding in a little bit of rod. That's what they're doing, is they're making these gaps perfect. You're not going to see that here. I'm just going to get it looking pretty good as best I can, lined back up. I mean, I'm not putting this in the super car show or anything. I just want it to look nice. But if it still has a huge gap, I might do that. I just haven't decided yet. So now I'm going to weld up this little hole in the door that's left. And then I might spend a minute aligning that, see if I can get that front fender to drop a little bit. And then I'm off to, I think, the putty and start working on that back window area. I just spent way too much time on this. I can see why people who do a lot of body work go for OEM fenders, because this fender's pretty good, but there's just enough things off about it. I literally just spent hours getting it the way it is, and it's not perfect, but it doesn't look too bad. I'll show you what I had to go through. All right, I did get this. That hole got welded in. I was able to pull that up quite a bit, and I got it pretty flat. It's not going to take a lot of filler to move, smooth that out, and that's what I wanted. And I got it matching up with the fender pretty good. This pokes up a little bit right here, but it used to be really bad. You can see this overall gap is a lot better than it was before. I was able to get the heights where the body lines matched up. Turns out the fender was all the way down. In fact, I had to stretch it. I put shims down here and I put shims up here, and that helped pull in this bubble quite a bit. In fact, it could probably go up a hair bit more, but I'd really have to stretch it to do that. And then I adjusted the door up, and it's pretty good, except now it's too high in the back. Now to get into the bolts to drop that door down, I don't have the right tools to do that. So I'm going to order the tools. They'll be here in a week. I'm going to be all out of town next week for work. When I come back, I can adjust that, and then I'm going to move on from this. I'm kind of happy with how all that turned out. If you look, I had to pull that out a little bit to make that even. That's not bad. And then it pokes out a little bit more here. And then we're even again up here. And maybe I could possibly stretch that up a little bit to get it a hair bit better, but I'm not getting that nuts about stuff. Well, it's another day and I'm back at it. I've decided to go ahead and seam seal up everything I want to do. So if you can see, I've actually primered up all the bare metal so the seam sealer has something good to hook to. And I am starting to work on the back window area. I went ahead and put a rust converter everywhere and all over the place, cleaned it up really good. And since this is bare metal, you don't put rust converter on bare metals, and so I just went ahead and primered that up, and I layered on a little layer of just spot and putty filler. The shape is all right, it's just still a little bit rough from not being able to really sand it good. So and I got to build this up a little bit. And once that dries, I'll probably put on another little bit layer and get it right. I'm going to seam seal. This is actually two pieces from there to there. I couldn't make the curve work out even if I pie shaped them, then it just looked like crap. Anyway, so I'm going to seam seal over there and then seam seal everything I want to do back here. And then I think I might take a serious stab at putting in the window. Oh, I got those little trim clips in too. Those are really easy. They just screw in there and you're set up. Well, I got the seam sealer all done. I did a lot of it with my hand. I don't recommend doing that. put rubber gloves on. I didn't even think about when I did it, but it took a long time to get my fingerprints to show again. But I went outside and inside. I'm real happy about that. That back panel is set and done. And then I went ahead and put a little seam sealer down in that corner and painted all this semi-gloss. So that is sealed and done. And I went ahead and put a little bit of spot putty in here because I wanted to sand and make that smooth. But I guess this stuff has a shelf life. It came out in kind of 2 different mixtures. I spent a lot of time mixing it up and trying to make it consistent, but it just seemed a little bit too runny when it went on, and it's still, even like an hour later, it's still a little tacky. So I think I'm just going to let that be for now, and I'll come back in a week later and probably sand most of that stuff out, and I'll get some fresh spot putty and put that in to start from the top. I am going to try to get the back window in today, and that might be the last thing I do, and then spin the car around. And then I've been doing all this because I don't want to tear into the cowl yet, but I doubt I'll get to that today. But I'll get the back window in, hood off, car spun around hopefully, and get ready to do that when I get back into town. Well, I got the window cleaned up pretty good. It definitely didn't come out perfect. I'm not going to get too crazy about it. This thing is original glass, and there's all kinds of scratches over the years and marks and little chips and stuff. So I'm not going to try to buffer it out or make it amazing because it'll never be that way. But it doesn't look too bad, and I'm going to go ahead and test fit it. And why, I know the window's going to fit. I'm test fitting it because usually, if you do this a lot, you can have these little foam pads that you can put in there that set the height. I don't have that. I'm just going to use some cardboard, so I'm going to set it in there and then figure out how thick a cardboard I need to stack up so I'm ready to go, and then I can goop everything up and then drop the window in. I don't have to then figure it out. All right, looks like the super scientific process means 3 pieces of cardboard put together. Just kind of looking at the gap between the trim for the high and the low. It looks like it fits really good that way with 3 pieces of cardboard. Not 2, but 3. And I think I'm going to go ahead and work on setting the window in there. Well, the back window went in, and it went in pretty good. It, boy, that thing to squeeze out that windshield urethane or whatever that sticky stuff is, that is a workout for the hands. I don't want to do that again anytime soon. Probably could have cut the nozzle a little bit bigger, made life a little easier, but I think I'm going to have the front one professionally done, maybe. We'll see how much it costs. I might not do it myself. But I twisted the car around, and I'm going to pop off the hood and get the springs off and start getting ready to cut up the cowl. I got the hood off and leaned it against the wall over there. Hood hinges are pulled off, and I'm getting it ready for next weekend. Looks like I got some surface rust. I'll dig into that, make sure it's not worse than it is. If it's just that, I'll clean it up and just put some rust neutralizer on there. And then I'm going to tape up the dash and put some drop cloth down because I don't want all this to get into the car as minimal as I possibly can. And then I'll start tearing into here and see how much I got to cut and patch up into here. I know there's one company, somebody posted up a company that actually built stuff like this, you know, these patch panels, and I checked it out, but I don't think I need the whole thing because it gives it all to you, and I just got to do some small areas here. But I am going to cut all this out, but that will be for next week. So I'm going to call this a video. Got quite a bit done. Back window is prepped in, all the seam sealer is done. I got a lot of metal and body work done. Dents pulled. It was really success for this last week. Next week I'm going to try to get all the cowl fixed and done, clean up this whole area, get it painted up, and then I'm going to start working on a filler and actually start folding it in, making it good. And it turns out I was going to paint it right here in this garage and do a whole episode on how to build a, you know, like a stealth paint booth. I don't think my neighbors would be too impressed, but I had some ideas on keeping it a secret. But I might have an opportunity to actually paint it in a semi-real paint booth, so I might just go ahead and do that. But we'll see how that works out. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and in a couple of weeks I'll try to get the next one out as I try to get this painted just in time for winter and storage. Thanks. See you next time.